Okay, so I saw this video yesterday called UE5 Hate is Brain Dead. This guy is basically calling everyone stupid for hating on Unreal Engine 5. His main premise is that the hate toward UE5 comes from YouTubers who don't know what they're talking about, and that they're just grifting and spreading negativity about UE5 games.
This game is a technical disaster on PC. The frame drops are so terrible and so consistent. It breaks my heart because the visuals are pushing it, man. This game is just chef's kiss after chef's kiss. Every moment I can slow walk like an E3 demoist in this game, I do. But when the action picks up, especially in the Steelworks, oh my God, dude, this runs horribly where it's kind of derailed my playthrough. I got some better frames when I turned on dynamic resolution and kept the thing at 60. This did stabilize my playthrough a decent amount, but even then, man, again, those Steelworks and many parts of the game where the chaos ramps up, the combat ramps up, which is frequent, this game is dipping hardcore into like the 30s. Worse yet, you can see in the footage that I'm playing right now that I changed my settings to medium. I moved it down from high to medium, and the game ran consistently worse.
Next, he accuses people of complaining because they're trying to run games on old hardware, like an NVIDIA GTX 980, expecting to play UE5 titles on high or ultra settings. He says they should just shut up and upgrade their PCs. We all know that's false.
When you think about it, this is 4K DLSS 3 performance mode on an RTX 5090, and DLSS 3 is super cheap on that GPU, sub half a millisecond at this res. So the bulk of the rendering pressure is coming from things rendering at 1080p, and this GPU is just not enough to maintain 60 without frame generation. This is quite a lot heavier than every path tracing game released to date. We find ourselves heavily GPU limited at 1080p native TSR using the game's max settings, much like we really expected it to be. Barely anything happening, and we're in the 40s, 30s, and even 20s in the heaviest section around the biomass areas, which appears to be the heavier areas in the game based upon the RTX 5090 experience. So optimized settings are definitely a must. The first port of call is hardware lumen. Yes, you get less noise, and yes, you get more accurate reflections as we can see in the broken glass here, but the cost is huge. 70% performance increase by going down to software lumen here, which I definitely recommend with a GPU of this caliber, and honestly almost any GPU other than the biggest ones out there.
Not only is it false, but he didn't even bother pulling up any statistics to prove his points. All he really said was, YouTubers are stupid. You shouldn't listen to them because they don't know what they're talking about. And people should listen to developers' podcasts instead because devs are smart and know what they're saying.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Here's my problem with all this. I'm not a game dev, and I'm not an expert on game development. Neither is my audience, and neither are most other YouTubers' audiences. But you know what works perfectly fine? Our eyes. You don't need to be a genius to see that UE5 games launch broken on PS5, Xbox, and PC. Secondly, UE5 games don't run poorly because everyone's on a GTX 980. These games run badly on brand new $2,000 rigs. They run poorly on RTX 4060 GB cards, all the way up to RTX 4080 GPUs. The proof is everywhere. And the reason the hate for UE5 is growing is because we get games outside of UE5, like Death Stranding 2, Spider-Man 2, and God of War Ragnarok, that run better, look sharper, and even have ray tracing on base, PS5 at 1440p, upscaled to 4K, locked at a smooth 60 FPS. Gamers and YouTubers are frustrated because there are PS4 games like The Last of Us Part 2 and Uncharted 4 that look better on last-gen hardware than what UE5 is putting out right now. And then he goes as far as to say some UE5 games look soft because that's artistic direction.
What?
If that's not shilling for UE5, I don't know what is. Calling everyone stupid, outdated, or brain dead for criticizing UE5 games is beyond ridiculous in my opinion. It's like telling people to stop crying about these games performing like trash, or build a $3,000 to $4,000 rig just to enjoy them.
Boy,
Unreal Engine has problems. That's not me saying it to stir the pot. That's the reality gamers and developers are facing right now. For every jaw-dropping showcase of surface detail, realistic lighting, and cutting-edge character models, there's a nasty trade-off. Stuttering, frame drops, performance issues, and it's not just PC players. Console users on PS5 and Xbox Series X are seeing these problems too, even if they're less severe. The concern is growing because more and more studios are moving away from their in-house engines and toward Unreal Engine 5. CD Projekt Red is building the next Witcher saga, and even their cyberpunk follow-ups in it. Microsoft has Halo Studios crafting the next Halo project in it. And those are just two examples. If UE5 has systemic performance flaws and it's powering the biggest franchises in gaming, that means these issues could become the new normal. So what exactly is happening? The problems we've seen so far in shipped UE5 titles usually come down to stuttering, inconsistent frame pacing, and subpar performance even on powerful rigs. Myth Wukong, Silent Hill 2, Stalker 2, Tekken 8, Frostpunk 2, Ark Survival Ascended. These are big names, and they've all been hit by UE5's performance problems. The proof is out there in player reports, benchmark tests, and YouTube performance breakdowns. Now, to be fair, a lot of these issues eventually get patched. Developers release hotfixes weeks after launch, and suddenly shader stutter isn't as bad, or traversal hitching is reduced. But that only proves the point. Studios are shipping unfinished optimizations and leaning on patches later. Why? Because UE5 itself is presenting hurdles during development. On Epic's own forums, devs from small teams to big studios are reporting the same headaches. Low frame rates, even on empty scenes, overheating GPUs, crashes, texture lag, slow loading, and more. These aren't casual complaints. They're fundamental technical barriers. And the core of this problem is shaders. If you're not technical, here's the simple version. Shaders are little programs that tell your GPU how to render every detail of a scene, the color of a pixel, the way light bounces, the texture of a surface, every flicker of firelight, every shadow, every effect you see in modern games is built from shaders. The catch is that shaders need to be compiled, and that takes time, sometimes milliseconds, sometimes more. And when a new shader is needed on the fly, your game freezes for that moment. Stack that across thousands of shaders per scene, and what you get is stuttering. Epic knows this is the biggest issue, and to their credit, they're addressing it. In Unreal Engine 5.2, they added the ability to pre-cache PSOs, or pipeline state objects. Think of PSOs as combinations of shaders and GPU settings bundled together. By pre-caching, the engine can load likely shader combinations during load screens instead of compiling them mid-game. Epic's blog explains it in painful technical detail, but the takeaway's clear. They know shader stutter is the core performance killer, and they're building ways to fix it. But here's the catch. Even after these updates, players are still struggling. Tekken 8 has input lag reports. Stalker 2 testers are talking about traversal stutter. Frostpunk 2 players are watching frames crawl on expensive rigs. Ark Survival Ascended is practically a meme at this point, with unplayable stutter and system crashes even on top-tier hardware. Wukong proves the same thing we've seen all year. Unreal Engine 5 is still a problem. On high-end rigs, on mid-range GPUs, even on consoles, the story repeats. Gorgeous visuals, yes, but under the hood, stutter, frame pacing issues, shader compilation misses, and unstable modes. Let's be clear, mid-range GPUs like the 2060 Super, 3060, or 4060 should not be choking this hard. When a 2070 Super struggles to hold 60 without aggressive cuts, that's not on the player, that's on the engine. Traversal stutter, shader spikes tied to particle effects, water flicker on RT medium. All of this comes from how UE5 handles rendering, not because people are too cheap to upgrade. PS5 and Series X are fixed hardware. Developers know the exact spec, yet with UE5, you still see dips in fog, bosses tanking frames with hair effects, and traversal stutter that just won't die. That's an engine flaw, bleeding through into every platform. And the sad part is, players are forced into optimized settings that gut features just to stay stable. But why should you need to strip visuals from a brand new premium UE5 title just to make it playable? Launch week for Metal Gear Solid Delta. Reviews land, performance chatter starts, and the red flag was there from day one. Digital Foundry's breakdown says the quiet part out loud. The 60 target is not stable. The dips are not light. They fall outside VRR a lot, sometimes hitting 30 in performance mode. If you own a fancy TV, that is still not a magic fix. You can feel it. You can see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Some people say, relax, we used to play like this. And yeah, once upon a time, we did. But why are we paying full price for modern AAA remakes if the baseline experience is good enough if you squint? Standards evolve. We expect stable frame pacing. Here is the part that really stings. Reports say the PS5 Pro version can run worse than the base PS5 in spots. That undercuts the whole point of the Pro. Sony does not write patches for third parties. I get it. But certification should protect the basic promise. The Pro should not be the worst experience. Full stop. And then there is the developer track record. Virtuos shipped the Oblivion remaster earlier this year with its own issues and support that did not inspire confidence. Konami patched some PS5 visual artifacts in Silent Hill 2. The PC version is still rough. When the money is made, the urgency to fix fades. You feel that as a buyer. Remember back in 2020 when Epic Games dropped that PS5 demo, Lumen in the Land of Nanite? That was the moment every gamer thought, yep, next gen is here. They showed off this ridiculous cave scene, statues with infinite detail, dynamic lighting bouncing off every surface, all supposedly running in real time on a PlayStation 5. And the kicker? They said this was actual gameplay. Like, look, this is what you'll be playing in just a couple years. Fast forward 5 years. It's 2025. And let me ask you, where the hell are those games? Where's that future we were promised? Because not only do we not have them on PS5, not even on PS5 Pro, but we don't even have them on the most powerful gaming PCs with RTX 5090 strapped to liquid nitrogen. Nowhere. The closest we've gotten are UE5 titles that look half decent in screenshots, but stutter, crash, and run like absolute garbage the second you press start. And yet, Unreal Engine 5 always gets away with it. That's the part that blows my mind. Every single time a UE5 game launches broken, Immortals of Avium, Lords of the Fallen, even Fortnite updates sometimes, the story isn't that the engine might be a problem. No, it's always developers need to learn how to use it. Like somehow Epic gets to wash their hands clean and say, not it, you just suck. Tim Sweeney literally said the problem isn't Unreal Engine, it's devs who don't optimize. Oh really? So you're telling me the engine designed to handle all the hard stuff can't actually handle the hard stuff? Got it. Let's be real. That 2020 demo was smoke and mirrors. Yes, it ran on PS5 hardware, but it wasn't a game. It was a movie set disguised as gameplay. No AI, no combat systems, no open world streaming, no online servers, just a carefully staged walking tour of rocks and statues. It was designed to make you go, holy shot, not to be playable beyond what we saw. But of course, gamers, devs, and even Sony themselves ate it up. That demo basically became free marketing for the PS5, but it never comes. Tim Sweeney himself actually stepped in to comment, and this is what he said. The main cause, according to him, is the order of development. A lot of studios build for top-tier hardware first, then leave optimization and low-spec testing for the very end. Epic says they're working on solutions, automated optimization across devices, and more education so that developers start thinking about performance from day one. Now, in theory, that sounds right. If you're serious about frame rate, you should always be targeting the lower spec hardware early on. That's what smart devs have done for years. Even indie studios with small teams have proven this. But let's be real, Unreal Engine's issues go deeper than just developers didn't optimize enough. Take traversal stutter. This isn't just a dev oversight, it's baked into the engine itself. For years, from UE 5.0 through 5.5, the engine struggled with streaming open worlds. As soon as you crossed cell boundaries and new actors were spawned in, you'd see massive frame time spikes. That wasn't something you could just optimize away. Only recently, with new experimental features like the fast geometry plugin and better multi-threading, has Epic started to rein that in. Before that, devs had to invent their own solutions, just to avoid constant stutter. Same deal with shaders. For the longest time, the default shader compilation system in UE5 was incomplete. Unless studios built custom pipelines, they They were stuck with bad stutter. Only after enough backlash from both developers and players did Epic prioritize fixing it. And yeah, Epic deserves credit. They've brought in experts, they've rolled out shader pre-caching, they're iterating hard, but pretending this was never a core engine issue? That's not fair either. Look at Metal Gear Solid Delta. On a modern RTX 4060, you can literally turn off shadows and lighting, drop the settings down until the game looks worse than a PS2 title, and you'll still struggle to hit 60 FPS. That's not just low-end optimization. That's a deeper engine bottleneck, especially when it comes to vegetation and geometry shading. The foliage-heavy environments just kneecap GPU performance. And until very recently, UE5's nanite foliage system wasn't optimized enough to handle that properly. So yeah, Tim Sweeney is technically right. Developers should absolutely think about optimization earlier. But he's also deflecting, because the truth is, many of UE5's most hyped features, nanite, lumen, huge open worlds, weren't ready for prime time when developers first jumped on them. Studios that started projects on UE 5.0 or 5.1 are stuck carrying those early design choices, and upgrading mid-development is expensive, risky, and sometimes impossible. And here's the bigger perception problem. Unreal Engine is marketed as this plug-and-play toolkit. Drop in your assets, flip on Lumen, and boom, you've got a next-gen showcase. But that's not how engines work. If you don't know how to rein in the tools, or if the tools themselves aren't mature yet, you're going to hit walls. That's why we're seeing these issues crop up across so many UE5 games, no matter the studio or budget. The bright side is that not all UE5 games are disasters. Hellblade 2 is proof that the engine can deliver both cutting-edge visuals and fluid performance, especially in its metahuman facial animation system. RoboCop Rogue City is another example, running at a stable 60 frames per second while still flexing UE5's lighting and reflection tech. These cases show that with the right optimization, UE5 can sing.